This video is an overview of the Bluebeam Revu software and how you might use it as part of your consulting work. If you're at all involved in construction projects, you're going to be looking at surveys, site plans, all kinds of things. The way that I used to do them, and I know that a lot of people still do it this way, is to get a big printed sheet, 24 by 36 full size. And these aren't cheap. They're at least $1 per sheet, if not more now. But you would get them printed out at full size, and then you bring an engineering roll out, and then you match the scale. So let's see. I have these non-full size sheets as an example, but when you look at this one, it says scale 1 inch equals 10 feet. So then I look for the 10 scale on my engineering rule. And if this plan was actually printed full size, then I could go through and, sort of measure out how far different trees are from their proposed house, proposed landscaping, things like that. That's how I started out learning. It was helpful to begin with, but you can imagine that the labor of having to go get every single plan gets kind of annoying, because throughout a project, people will continue to send you plans. So what do? You could print them out yourself on smaller sheets, tape them together, whatever. Ultimately, it's just a lot of extra work. So my old boss, the one who trained me for all the consulting, he would basically do it in Paint. I ended up using Photoshop for this, but it's kind of the same idea. So you have your plan, you zoom in to a certain degree, like a certain percentage, and at some point, this scale will match your physical scale on the computer screen. I just basically did the same thing in Photoshop, but the benefit of Photoshop was that you had these layers, so that you could make tree numbers on this layer, you could do notes on this layer, drip lines on this layer, and it kept it very tidy. I did it that way for about 8 years. But when I went off on my own, I learned about this program Bluebeam, and I started a free trial. Within that trial, within the first few days, I was like, wow, this is a game changer. I have to subscribe to this. Then, what is Bluebeam? Bluebeam is a software that is based on PDFs, and it allows for markups and collaboration. It's very handy because it's made for the construction industry. There are ways for you to figure out the scale of your plan. You could input it and it fixes it for that whole page, or even like a subsection of a page. Let's say you have a section where you're just looking at the side of a retaining wall or something, then you can set separate scales as well. And it just makes it super easy because you don't have to drag out this, you don't have to hold it against any plan, you don't have to print anything. You can just click 2 points and get the distance. There are some caveats. Is one, you have to have some degree of tech savviness. If you're someone who is really stuck in your ways and you don't want to learn new software and you're very uncomfortable with this or that, possibly not the program for you. It is also much more efficient if you know shortcuts. I use all kinds of shortcuts that I didn't explain, and these are shortcuts within the program itself. They're not shortcuts that you can use universally for other programs. I guess technically the cost could be a problem if you don't have a lot of construction projects, but it's $27-ish a month. The amount of time it takes for you to get things printed out, the cost of the printing, cost of scanning, all of that stuff is also going to add up. I think it's very much worth it, both in terms of the efficiency and how much time it saves. If you're interested in using it to draw tree protection plans, I can share more tips about how I do it specifically, and I feel that they look pretty good. But at the end of the day, this is a markup software. It's like you have a PDF and you're just layering stuff on top of it. You're not actually adjusting the plan underneath. So any of these things that you put in there, drip lines, tree locations, tree numbers, if that information needs to make it into a plan set, most likely one of the other people, the engineers, the landscape architects, whomever, they're taking your PDF and duplicating the information in CAD. You're not actually creating these designs with the design team. if you actually wanted to do that, you'd have to learn CAD. And that to me seems much less accessible. This one I was able to get off and running within a couple of days of previewing the program. If you're interested in testing out the program, what I would suggest is to have a project that you're working on and hopefully enough time and get a 2-week trial. I just think that it's somewhere in the middle tier of being accessible enough for the average arborist and not something that's more daunting like CAD. Now I'm gonna go into the demo part so you can see some of the basic things that you might end up doing. This is what Bluebeam looks like when you open it up. I'm going to be calling it Bluebeam, but the official name of the software is actually called Revu. This is your standard workspace once you've opened up the program. And you can see here on the left side, there's all types of tools that they expect to be beneficial for these different design team members. Open up a plan here. This plan is actually from one of my old projects, one of my very first projects as a consulting arborist. And this program works with PDF, so you don't need a CAD file or anything like that. The first thing you want to do is what's called setting the scale. If nothing else, if you're not going to use it to draw a tree protection plan, anything like that, at least use it to review your plans. This is a program made for construction and it is very handy. So on the left side here, I want to call your attention to multiple toolbars. There's this one on the left, there's this one on the right, and then there's some on the bottom. So you can change this up however you want in the future. I will just present it based on the default. So go to this thing on the left that looks like a ruler. It's called measurement. And this is where you calibrate your scale. If you have a common scale, 1 inch equals 30 feet is a common scale. You can click one of these presets and then just look for it in this list. So 1 equals 30. That scale is set. If it's not a common scale, but you do have a number here, then you can go into custom and then you just type it in here. 1 inch equals however many feet. If you don't have any of that, then what you can do is, let's say you have this graphic scale, but you don't have a 1 inch equals 30, or if you don't have any of that, but you look on your plan and somewhere, pretend like this area has it, it doesn't have anything, but let's say it says this easement is 20 feet, then you can use that to calibrate your scale. So we'll use this graphic bar. To calibrate, you click this calibrate button on the left here, and then there's going to be these crosshairs that pop up. You click on one end, and then you click on the other end, and it'll pop up a window. It has measured it being an inch-ish, and you enter what that distance is, which in this case has 3 feet, 30 feet. What I am also going to do is click precision 1, because that will give distances in inches. I don't need it more precise than that. So I apply the scale. And for just sort of like a quality check, what I will also do is click this button here. It also shows up in other areas, like on the right side right here. It's the length tool. And what you do is you do the same thing, click one end, click the other, and just kind of double check that it's essentially what it should be. And that's basically it. Let's say that the trees were surveyed and you're just trying to figure out how far something is. In this case, here we have a tree. I want to see how far it is from this thing, which is a driveway, a curb and a driveway. I'll go over here to my length tool. I'll just click that tree and click that driveway, and that tells me it's 10 feet 9 inches away. Game changer. That's all you have to do. You can just repeat that process. Let me see where else. Repeat that process anywhere you want, 15 feet. And you can go ahead and honestly do this for every single tree. Then go through later once you're done with everything and input all those numbers yourself. So this already is really, really helpful. And you can delete them when you're done. Another thing that I find very helpful is putting tree numbers on a plan. That might be something that you do even if you're not going to put together a tree preservation plan or anything like this. What you often do is you have these tree locations and you're expected basically to put in the tree numbers. So what you could do is on the upper right, it's this text box tool, and you can create a text box and then start typing in the number. Even though this says 383, I'm going to put 1. So I'm going to change that color so that it's more visible. That's a 1. And what you can do from here is actually add this as a tool Let's say you like the look of this. Maybe I'll make it a circle and I want it to have some fill in the back that will make it stand out a little bit more. I'm going to click this tool here, auto size text box, so that it stays nice and tidy. So let's say I want all my tree numbers to look like this. What I can do is right click that and add it to the tool chest under whatever tools you want. You could do my tools, you could do a toolbox, a totally new toolbox, but here's what that looks like. My tools on this left side here, I have other stuff, so you can ignore that, but check this out. If I click this button, from then on, I'm just gonna be putting the same markup over and over. And this is really handy because you can edit it however you want. Let me delete these first. So I just have a standard text box right now, but the cool thing is I can create a sequence from it. So if I wanted to start at tree number 1, then I would just click OK, and I would click that tool and check it out. It's doing 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's pretty cool. Let's say you end up working on a project like this map that we have here. You've got all these weird tree numbers because not everyone starts from tree number 1. So what you could also do is define the sequence so that it starts at the number that you want it to start at. So let's say 383. And when I click that one, well, now it looks a little bit ugly, but you get the idea. You would have to adjust it accordingly. And that way, when you're clicking around, you end up with these sequences and you can match them to whatever you're working on. What you can also do is do something similar. Let's say you know that these trees are going to be removed and you want your client to know that. You can do the same thing. You can put an X over that. And once you've started using a tool, what you can actually do is have it continue to use that tool over and over. And that's down here on the left, reuse markup tools. You can see here on the left side here, there's a recent tools. And if I was to click that X, then once I've selected that reuse markup, then it'll continue to let me use that same X over and over. So you can see how handy that becomes. Instead of having to type it in each time, I can just go and X through all these trees and to let the team know that these are now removals because XYZ reason. Another thing that you can also do is do call outs. Here's what that looks like. You may have seen it on other people's plans before. So what you do is you click this thing that looks like a speech bubble with an arrow on it, and then you click where you want that arrow to start, and then you drag it out. And here you can start typing things to save tree, give 15 feet clearance. And the cool thing about this is once again, you can edit this. So I can change the border of what that text box looks like. I can make it opaque so that the background doesn't show up anymore. And you can make notes and call them out to specific trees this way. And if you want this to apply to multiple trees, you can even right click add leader, and you can apply that to a multitude of trees. If you don't want that anymore, you can delete leader. If you like the look of this markup, what you could do is delete the contents and then just right click and add it to your tool chest. And you'll see that it shows up here. So in the future, next time you want to use that exact same thing, you can just click it and it's just going to give you this exact same appearance. And then here's another tool, which is similar to the call out here, but it's more of a cloud. And if you've been around construction plans, I'm sure you've seen this. So you click the cloud and then you either draw out an area like so, or you can highlight a square rectangle and you get a cloud and you get a text box. You can type into that text box. You can edit it like the other one. You can stretch out the box a little bit more to cover a whole area of trees. And this way you don't have that individual call out. So this can also be very convenient to give a lot of recommendations to the team. Another thing that you can do with this is use it to draw more precise tree protection plans to scale, or at least give the location of the fencing to the design team to scale. In this case, I've identified that the fencing should be placed 8 feet from the trunk. So I can go on this right side here, click the length tool, and then drag out something about 8 feet. And from there, what I could do is click this polyline tool and start drawing out a line. I'm just eyeballing what 8 feet looks like on the other side to give it 8 feet radius. And to end this polyline, I just double click. And you can see that it already looks like fencing because this is, remember, this is a construction program. And it already has this appearance like fencing, but we want the line to change. So fence line circle, fence line square, insulation, it's gonna change it to these different appearances. Let's say I wanted to install tree protection fencing along the drip line of this tree. I can just click all the way around like so. And if you're coming to a circle, then you don't actually have to double click. It's just gonna close that immediately. But if you have a line like this, you do have to double click at the end of it. So very handy. This also allows you to do the same thing with the polyline. Let's say you wanted to have fencing that kind of followed your future plans. These 3 trees, let's say that I can save them for some reason, but I want as much of that space fenced off as possible. I can start here. I can follow their entire, the proposed encroachment area, and then just draw a fence. Another thing that you might want to do is bring in, let's say, some general tree protection recommendations from another PDF. And that's easy. What you can do is open that PDF in Revu, go to the right side here, this snapshot. You can click that, highlight the area that you want to basically screenshot or take a picture of, hit Control C, and then you just come back to the original plan, and you hit Control V, and you can see here that that text has been copied over. So you can very easily just plop stuff on the plan. Essentially, all the changes that you've been making are just on top of the PDF, and you can just send the original PDF to your clients. But if you wanted to fix it, so you don't want them to be able to drag your markups around, what you can do is export it. So on the top under File, you can go to Publish. You can click Publish as flattened. And what this allows you to do is just make everything one image where they can't edit it. So one option that you can do is allow markup recovery, which means that you can unflatten it. This is good because you will sometimes override the document that you're working on if you're not careful. And then when you save it, you just have to change the name. Something like that. And then you'll see when I open this flattened plan, I can't click any of these markups that I made. All right, that's the end of the demo. You can see if you watched it through that there's a lot of basic things that you can do, even if you're not at the point of drawing tree protection plans. There are a lot of arborists that will just give the notes to the designers and have them make a plan. You could totally do that, but in this case, you can see you have more control over that. It's a lot less manual, paper shuffling kind of work.